Viewers, eyes are the windows to the world, and good vision is crucial for leading a fulfilling life. Yet in India, thousands suffer silently due to preventable blindness caused by cataracts. This is especially true in rural areas, where lack of access to affordable healthcare forces many to live in darkness. Cataract surgeries, though simple and effective, remain out of reach for those who can't afford the treatment or travel to urban centers for medical care. However, help is at hand. Here's a story of how one institution is empowering the youth, restoring vision, and also contributing to Viksit Bharat mission. Take a look.
In a country where millions live in darkness due to cataract, Akanji Eye Hospital is becoming a beacon of hope. Operating in the heart of rural India, Akanji is on a mission to achieve over 1 lakh cataract surgeries annually. Former Niti Aayog chairman Amitabh Kant, recalling his visit to one of the facilities, reckoned that Akanji is doing the unimaginable and lauded its efforts in helping millions out of curable blindness.
Fortunately, I've seen the performance of Akanji in Balia district of UP, where I had gone along with the health minister, Mr. Nadda, and some path-breaking and remarkable work has been done by them. They do about 100,000 eye operations. This is mammoth for any organization. Transforming the lives of 100,000 people as far as their eyesight is concerned is really a massive operation. And their target is to take it to 400,000. Now, this would mean that they will transform lives of people who will be able to see better. They will not require assistance and support, and they will therefore increase the production and productivity of India. That is what is required to become an economic superpower, and that can be done if we have thousands of Akanji in India.
For many, losing their eyesight means losing their livelihood and independence. But for those who step into Akanji, it is the beginning of a brighter journey. With state-of-the-art facilities and a compassionate team, the hospital offers free surgeries to the underprivileged, transforming lives with every procedure.
So I think it's a very noble cause because you have two, three elements here. One is of course the eye surgery, which is a very basic requirement in rural India, and especially in the state of Bihar where they are majorly located. So that is one aspect which they are serving. But more important is the fact that they are taking young girls who are from unprivileged and marginalized communities, training them, educating them, making them serve as a caregiver in this eye space. So they are creating that education, they are creating that jobs for those girls, and also helping them serve these with these eye surgeries. So I think all three of them together, it's a very, very noble cause and objective which they are fulfilling, and doing it in a very professional, corporate manner. So therefore it is far more efficient than.
From farmers who can now tend to their fields, to children who can finally see the blackboard in school, and the elderly, Akanji is restoring more than just eyesight. It is restoring dreams and livelihoods of the countless from the downtrodden communities. In face of despair, this hospital stands as a ray of life, providing small act of kindness that can create ripples of change. One surgery at a time, Akanji now aims to operate over 3 lakh patients a year. Now that we have told you about the mission, meet the man behind the vision. Republic spoke exclusively to Mrityunjay Tiwari. Hear his story that brought Akanji to life.
Rarely stepped out of cities, but today runs one of the largest eye hospital in the country, but at the same time, a hospital with a difference. Joining us is Mrityunjay Kumar Tiwari. He is the founder, project head and executive trustee of Akanji Jyoti. Mr. Tiwari, thank you very much for this special conversation with Republic TV. For those who do not know much about the work that you have essentially done over the last several years put together, would find it extremely intriguing as to how you started all of this, because I was reading somewhere that you said that for you the barometer of success was the Bombay Stock Exchange, and you perhaps did not see a world outside the cities. But today, you're not only providing eye healthcare services to rural India, but also at the same time making it affordable for various people. I want to ask you this question first. How did it all start?
Well, you know, you've rightly said that the way I grew up in Kolkata and born and brought up, and my studies and everything, you see, I always felt that the Sensex and the foreign exchange reserves were the barometer of success of a nation, which actually I think I was a little bit, I would say, away from the truth. And a few chance events of visiting Bihar, and whereby seeing the poverty, where seeing girls being underage girls being working as maid servants, girls not getting proper education, that was something which prompted me to rethink the entire concept. And I really feel that when I started Akanji Jyoti about 18 years back, I felt that India is two countries actually, and majority of the Indians reside in rural areas, and until rural folks don't come up, until rural India doesn't come up, the double-digit growth aspiration which our country has may not be a reality. And that's what prompted us to actually focus on low-income geographies, especially the rural and tribal areas.
Mr. Tiwari, could you help us recount that very moment when you decided that perhaps this is your calling?
Yes, I must say that, you know, until it was the call of my soul, which all of this happened. And, you know, interestingly, you know, many a times you are not able to see what really your soul wants, what you really want to do it in life. And in fact, I frequently remember Mark Twain's word that the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you know why. I actually went on to find my why in this village called Mastishak in Bihar by starting Akanji Jyoti. And this is something which also dawned on me that one, of course, is that majority of the Indians lived in rural areas, and that need to be developed. But secondly, when you started understanding what really is the purpose of life, and I would say that it took me about 6 months to discover my journey of life. In Hindi we call it the Shodh Yatra. And it was then I discovered that ultimately, whether I have a Lamborghini or whether I have an Ambassador or whether I have a Jaguar car, it won't go with me when the time comes to depart this world. Ultimately, we all will become legacies, and therefore one of the best thing is that can we leave a legacy which many and many people can be impacted.
The story of Akanji Jyoti, as I understand, this is because of one such incident that you witnessed up front while one of your visits to Bihar, and particularly seeing that a farmer, a distressed farmer, could not carry on with his life only because a surgery was prevented in one of the district hospitals in Bihar. I want to understand from you, what made you really decide that perhaps the need of the hour is as simple as an eye hospital, because many wouldn't have really thought that as an important issue to address, because our country at that point in time and even today is plagued with several other issues.
Yeah, you were correct. In fact, as I said, my life is all about three stories. The first story was in 2005, visiting a remote village in Bihar and witnessing girls being traded, I would say, or going about as maid servants, underage girls who should have been in school. That pushed me to actually do something for low-income geographies. But as when I came to Mastichak, I wasn't even sure as to what I could do. So I just did everything which could help people. So whether it is distributing medicines, distributing free books, participating in pulse polio campaigns, basically everything under the sun. But that chance event of actually meeting this farmer who was being turned away because there was no surgeon in the district eye hospital at the time, and importantly he had a 10-year-old daughter who was with him, who was in school till 2 years back, but due to the blindness of the farmer, she was pulled out of school to take care of the blind person. Now, when that incident actually spurred me to starting reading up about blindness, visual impairment, and then I could understand that blindness and poverty are both a cause and effect of each other. They are interrelated. Higher pockets of blindness will have higher pockets of poverty, and vice versa. And it was then also I realized that blindness and visual impairment, unlike other interventions, is not merely a healthcare intervention. It is a livelihood restoration exercise. One 5-minute surgery done well and the person is back to work. What can be more beautiful than this?
Pardon me saying this, Mr. Tiwari, there is a Cinderella story to all that you have said so far. And as a journalist, perhaps I would also like to know how it all started. And for many who are watching this interview, especially those who would have this at the back of their mind as to how do you really manage to do all of this? Because at the end of the day, running something of this nature and the magnitude at which you're basically running this, how is all of this possible? And if you can actually achieve this, why is it that others could not have done so? So what is it that we are really missing out here?
I think the key factor is the will to be able to do it. And in Hindi, there is a word called Nishkam Bhav Seva. So, that's selfless public service. The moment you start such interventions with a particular agenda, it's more likely to fail. So I would say if you do not have an agenda and if the will is there to persevere and to keep on doing it, you will definitely succeed, because the biggest motivating factor is the beneficiary. It's not your size of the institution, it's not your own personal ego, it's not your teammates, it's the beneficiary which matters the most. And if the beneficiary is the driving factor, I can guarantee that you will always stick to the path, even if it means walking alone.
When you see that something as simple as this, curing a visual impairment, which perhaps with a single surgery could have altered the lives of many, do you believe that there are several such issues, very simple, but yet has now been complicated by various issues? Could be because of lack of political will, it could be because of lack of resources available. What, in your experience that you've had so far, requires an urgent attention and perhaps could actually change the life of many living in rural India?
I think just like we talked about blindness and visual impairment and how one quick 5-minute intervention can do the trick, I think most of the complex problems which the country faces, especially the agrarian society or rural India faces, I think it's all about simplicity. You would probably find a very, very simple solution which is out there. You need not overcomplicate it. You need not be very unique in doing that. It's just identifying that what is that one element. If we stick to it, it gets the job done. I think the important aspect is not to overcomplicate. Just look at the simple solutions and importantly do it well. Because one of the things which I've also realized in my life while working at such a magnitude where we are doing 100,000 surgeries annually, 80% of which is free, that can only come up if the scale of execution and the speed of execution is right.
Mr. Tiwari, one very interesting thing that I also found was your next initiative about women playing football. And when you had a chance encounter with one such girl who was actually playing football, and when you asked the question as to how did they learn football, that's a very interesting anecdote which I perhaps would like you to share this with our viewers and talk a little bit about the second initiative that you essentially started and how it all perhaps panned out over the last few years.
Actually, the Akanji Football to Eyeball Girls Education Program is in itself so unique, but also it binds together the eye care work, I must say. And being a former professional footballer myself, in 1997 I got injured in a match. I fell down, had slip disc, and I had to leave the game physically. But in my wildest imagination, I would have never dreamt that 12-13 years later, football will come back to me in my life in the form of these girls. This small incident where I was meeting the principal of the local girls' school to invite him for a program at the hospital. Till that time, by the way, we didn't have a single women employee at the hospital, and I tried my best to get women and girls to work, but somehow they were more comfortable in the paddy fields or restrained to their houses. And it was that chance event when I saw this 3 girls wearing salwar suit kicking around a roll of paper. I was quite amazed. And upon asking, they said that they're playing football and they would climb up the rooftops of their houses and see their brothers playing in the nearby football pitch. And that's how they learned football. And it was then struck, can we use football as an icebreaker to draw out girls from their houses and give them an alternative career? And so I went to these houses of these 3 girls. It took me almost 6 months to get 2 of them in. But the promise was very clear that from the parent's side, he or she would make sure that the girl is not married before 21 years of age. And Akanji will sponsor the cost of her education, especially optometry education, and they call the optometrist junior doctor back in the rural areas. By using football, we've been successful in actually getting over 500 girls at the moment in our system, whereby they not only play football, stay full-time in our hostels, doing a 5-year course, which includes a 4-year degree course in optometry, and then they get a guaranteed job at any of the 47 centers of Akanji, which is there, small or big. And importantly, they are also developed and groomed to become leaders of the organization, and ultimately they also become the social change agents or role models for their respective communities.
Well, you should be applauded for being able to break the glass ceiling. And this, I'm talking with some amount of responsibility, especially given the fact that to be able to achieve this in rural areas and particularly breaking the shackles of patriarchy is a huge achievement in itself. Mr. Tiwari, it's understandable that you may have come across several people who may have thanked you for the kind of work that you've done. But today, perhaps it's also opportune to ask you this, that what is that one compliment or one story that has actually touched you the most in your journey over the last almost 2 decades now? Something that perhaps you will never forget, that one compliment or that one story that you believe has altered the way you look at life.
This is a young girl called Chavi, who basically Chavi and Chaya are twins. So when they came to the hospital 13 years back, when they were about 13 years old, and after a year, I remember her saying that एक दिन मैं भी hospital चलाना चाहती हूँ. I also want to run a hospital on my own one day. And today she is one of the leading leaders in Akanji. I still remember when the girl actually was new and she didn't have enough confidence. The very fact that her aspirations became such that she was thinking of leading a large-scale impact program. That is something which touched me so much that ultimately I didn't have to change. I thought of the same way for my biological daughters. I thought of the same way, I used to think of the same way for girls as I was before coming to Akanji. I didn't have to take the big leap of faith. It is these girls who had to take this big leap of faith. It was they who had to change. It was they who had to come out of their houses. And it was they who had to shatter the glass ceiling, as they say. And so it is, whenever I look at them, I just admire their tenacity to actually do well. That's been something which always resonates in my life.
Mr. Tiwari, as I understand, for a man like you, you would be quite unstoppable and perhaps not be satisfied with what you have achieved so far. What is in your mind as what next? What's the next phase of growth, if I may ask you?
You see, my dream is absolutely clear that in rural and tribal areas, none of our brothers or sisters or elders should live a life of darkness. They must have access to sight. The right to sight is something which everyone must get. And secondly, every girl in the rural and tribal areas is a potential change agent, is a potential leader, is a potential Draupadi Murmu. And I must say that to bring all of them before the community, to bring all of them to realize their potential, that is the aspiration. And it is not because it's a personal ambition for me. The need is there. The huge unmet need of people who are afflicted with blindness and visual impairment, that in itself mandates institutions like Akanji to actually treble, quadruple their output, to exponentially increase their impact. And therefore, Akanji has actually embarked on a strategic goal called Vision 2030. Under the Vision 2030 program, by the next 6 to 7 years, we aspire to deliver 2 million eye surgeries, 80% free of charge, and from 100,000 surgeries annually, move on to 400,000 surgeries annually, cover more states, not only restrict to Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, cover more states, also give primary eye care to 1.2 crores individuals in their villages, and the Football to Eyeball Girls Education Program, which currently has 550 girls, should go up to 1,500 girls. That is the aspiration for the next 5-6 years.
For many youngsters who are essentially watching you, perhaps who would be a little wary, nervous about taking a giant leap in their life, particularly about starting something different, what would you like to tell them, and how exactly do you think they would be in a position to muster courage to take forward what they have dreamt?
Just 3 things I would mention, and that is, I'm talking from experience. First of all, the will has to be there. That's paramount. Without that, it's not going to happen. Second is that ultimately you must remember that everything is in your control. And it all starts with the mind. If you are open in the mind, if you have an open mind that everything is possible, I think you can do anything. It's just that we get bogged down by problems. We should rather focus on solutions. So my advice would be to become more solution oriented rather than, of course you need results, but I would say becoming solution oriented will help you actually think of long-term outcomes. And thirdly, and most important thing is, just run after excellence. You don't have to think about name, fame, money, etc. Just run after excellence. If the cause is correct and you run after excellence, you will definitely do well. And I must say that you can actually get a cue from the USP of Akanji, which is to deliver quality at scale in low resource settings. And I'm sure that it is doable. We have shown the way. The will has to be there, the execution has to be there, and the tenacity has to be there.